Rick and the others head to Atlanta in search of Dixon when zombies suddenly attack the survivor camp. The survivors were killed and injured, and only about 10 people survived. Amy also slowly lost her breath in Andrea's arms. Early the next morning, Daryl checks the zombies again and burns them all together. Andrea, however, kept her sister's body and just stared at her. The others came to persuade her to put it down. Amy's body had to be disposed of, but Andrea never responded. Rick would have liked to enlighten her himself, but to his surprise, Andrea took the gun and aimed it directly at his head. He also had something in his heart to blame Rick for. If they hadn't gone out, wouldn't this have happened? Rick had to leave too. The cleanup was still going on, and Daryl and the two of them were about to burn the bodies of their teammates. But Glenn stopped them. He believes the burns is the zombies, and their teammates should be buried. For the teammates who spent time together before, we all have feelings, and we will not say anything more. On the other hand, Jackie shouted up. She found Jim bleeding. The zombie must have bitten him. T-Dog grabbed him, and Daryl lifted his shirt to see that it was indeed the wound left by the zombie. There was a moment of silence. This was the last thing they wanted to see. Daryl suggests just letting him finish him off with a hoe. Dale also agreed with Daryl's suggestion. Rick objected, saying that Jim was not a zombie or a mad dog biting people. He was just a patient now. Rick has heard that the CDC is working on an antidote, so maybe going there will help. Shane disagreed, saying that the CDC had probably fallen too and that the place to go was Fort Benning, 100 miles away. It's a military base, heavily guarded, and everyone will be safe. Daryl didn't care that the two men were arguing. He grabbed a hoe and went to kill Jim. Rick calms him down again with his gun and tells him he can't kill anyone alive. Shane is also on Rick's side on this one. Finally, Andrea opens the scarf in her hand. It was the necklace she picked up at the department store. Today is her sister's birthday. The necklace has not yet been sent out. And then the yin and yang are separated. Not long after, Amy began to mutate. Andrea had to take out her weapon and send her off for the last time. She did not put her sister's death on Rick but hated herself for not being by her sister's side at that time. Carol also personally disposed of her husband's body. She cried while wielding a hoe as if all the aggression suffered over the years to let out. Now she can live well for herself and her daughter. Rick was very sad that this happened, but he thought he was not at fault. If he had not gotten the guns back, maybe everyone would not have been spared. After dealing with the camp, Shane called a meeting with everyone. He expressed his approval of Rick's proposal to go to the CDC. The next morning, Rick arrived early at the top of the mountain and tried to contact Morgan on his walkie-talkie. Although he didn't get a response, he left a message for Morgan to meet him at the CDC. Everyone was ready to start the migration, but this family chose to leave them. Rick did not object but instead took out a pistol and a few rounds of ammunition and gave it to them. The crowd has also said goodbye to them. In the post-apocalyptic world can only give each other their best wishes. Everyone also no longer dawdles. Rick left a message to Morgan here, and then the crowd began to set off. Jim, who the zombie bit, also stayed in the RV. An hour later, the RV hoses had problems, and the temperature was too high, so everyone had to stop and take a break. Jackie comes out of the car and tells the group that Jim is dying. Rick came to the car to check on him. Jim said that the bumps in the car were causing him pain, and he wanted everyone to leave him there. Rick didn't want to give up on him, but he chose to respect his wishes. They put him under a tree and he liked the environment better instead. Everyone said goodbye to him. After all, is born to die comrades. Rick wanted to leave him a gun, but he refused. Then the group continued to move towards the CDC and finally arrived at their destination in the evening. When they got out of the car, they realized that the place where they thought the army would be stationed had fallen. The place stank to high heaven, and there were corpses everywhere. When they arrived at the entrance, they found the doors locked. By this time, zombies were appearing behind them. Daryl's temper started to flare up, blaming Rick for bringing everyone to a dead end. The children in the crowd also began to sob. The adults also began to argue. Originally listening to Shane's advice to go to Fort Benning military base would be good. Now without supplies, it's hard to get through this evening. As they were evacuating, Rick noticed that the overhead camera was moving and someone was inside. In fact, the doctor inside was indeed watching them, but wasn't about to let them in. Shane is still trying to talk him down, telling him it's a fully automated camera. Rick knocked on the door and shouted, praying for the people inside to open the door, and at this time, the zombies around them began to move toward them. The doctor was also suffering inside, struggling to do the thought process. Just when the crowd was desperate and ready to leave, the door of the CDC opened. The crowd stopped dawdling and quickly entered the building. The hall of this CDC is relatively empty. There is no one. At that moment, a man with a weapon appeared across from them. The man asked if any of them had been infected. Rick could only answer truthfully that the one who was infected did not make it here. The man didn't say anything. He just took a good look at the group members. They have women, children, do not look like bad guys. Also put down the gun in their hands. Let them hurry to bring in the luggage. Once the door is closed, it cannot be opened. Now the crowd is back from the dead. Did not pay attention to the man, said the door cannot open things. Quickly took the luggage in, and then closed the door. Dr. Jenner then took them underground too. Rick looked at the empty hall and asked why there was no one else. Jenner replied that I was the only one left there. The crowd was in disbelief. They thought the government could develop the vaccine and protect them. Now they were disappointed. After everyone accepted this reality, the group had the best dinner since the end of the world. Jenner said that after the disaster, everyone here left. The situation got worse and worse. Military defenses were broken, and many people couldn't face the outside world. They had no choice and ended up committing suicide, leaving Jenner to keep working here. He tries to find a solution to the virus. After dinner, Jenner took them to their respective residences. It was a rare place to have a hot shower. Rick found Jenner alone, thanked him, and talked about the outside world. And his wife Lori is alone in the living room, flipping through books. Shane came here, looking at her stunning back. Drinking a bit of wine, Shane became bold. He wants to talk to Lori. He doesn't understand how Lori is so cold now, but Lori blamed Shane for lying to her about Rick's death. Shane was so aggravated that he kept explaining to Lori. When he went to the hospital to save Rick, the military was even slaughtering patients. He had Rick, but at that time, Rick had no heartbeat, but somehow, he came back to life. If Rick had been alive in the hospital, Lori would not have left and probably have died at home. Shane said that he saved Lori and Carl and has been protecting them. Shane said and started to make a move on Lori. He wanted nothing more than to be with her. That's when Lori grabbed him hard around the neck, which sobered Shane up a bit, and he had to leave the room in anger. The next morning, while everyone was eating, Rick also noticed the wound on his good buddy's neck. Shane just explained that he accidentally got it while sleeping. After breakfast, the crowd still had a lot of questions. Jenner had to take them to the workplace to explain everything they wanted to know. Jenner said that after death, people would mutate into zombies. This time is as fast as 3 minutes, and the longest time is up to 8 hours. The only way to kill them is to destroy the brain. The crowd understood the principle but was more concerned about whether there was a solution. Jenner said helplessly that so far, there was no solution. At this point, the Wisedale looked at the countdown on the wall and asked what would happen after the time was up. Jenner said the generator would run out of fuel, said and left the place. Rick can only ask the AI what will happen when the power runs out. The answer they get is that the power will run out, and there will be full disinfection, although they did not understand what it meant. Rick took the people directly to where the fuel was stored, and indeed the fuel was almost gone. By this time, the lights in the entire hall had gone out. Jenner explained that the system would shut down unnecessary power if only half an hour were left. He also told the truth to everyone. If the power is exhausted and can only be here to die. Rick realized something was wrong and told his wife to pack up and prepare to leave. The crowd rushed to start moving. That's when the alarm in the hall sounds, indicating that the disinfection process has 30 minutes to go. Jenner flipped the switch, and the door was sealed. It was clear he was going to keep everyone here. Daryl goes berserk and tries to use violence to get Jenner to open the door but is stopped by T-Dog. Rick came over and calmly asked him to open the door, but Jenner said that the door above had been blocked, and the one here was also closed, and there was nothing he could do about it. It was all computer controlled. Rick asked again what would happen here after 28 minutes. Jenner said that what is stored here is quite dangerous. All kinds of viruses have everything. If power is exhausted here, a self-destruct sequence will be initiated. The crowd fell silent, which meant everyone there would die. Jenner then went on to say that this place will release a bomb second only to nuclear bombs, igniting the air and destroying the existence of all organisms with no pain at all, which is also a good choice. The women and children were already crying in fear. Only a few men refused to admit defeat and slashed the iron door with axes, but it was all to no avail. The door could withstand a rocket blast. Shane has gone crazy and forced him to open the door with his gun. Rick stops him. Violence is not going to solve anything now. Lori also begs Jenner to open the door. No one wants to die. Rick and the others convinced Jenner that he could open the door here, but he couldn't open the door outside either. Then he entered the password, and the door finally opened. With only 4 minutes and 30 seconds left on the clock, everyone ran desperately for the outside. Surprisingly, Jackie chose to stay. She didn't want to become a zombie. She was happy to die without pain. It was her choice. The crowd also no longer forced. Even Andrea also chose to stay. Amy died, and she had no confidence in life. Dale stayed and tried to persuade her. Several people who came outside had to choose to break the glass, but no matter how hard they tried, there was no response, and even the shot only left a little trace. At this time, Carol rushed up. She took out the grenade that Rick had gotten in the tank. I never thought it would come in handy here. A huge explosion finally broke the glass. Now every minute is precious. They soon arrived at the car. The crowd was just about to leave, but they didn't expect Dale to persuade Andrea to come out. They also quickly ran toward the car. There were only 10 seconds left. It was too late to start the car. Lori hurriedly shouted for them to get down. Rick also let the people inside the car quickly find cover. A few seconds later, a huge explosion was heard, and the CDC seemed to turn into a volcano. The good thing is that the area affected is a manageable size. After the explosion stopped, the people were not affected much, and they all survived. Now everyone had to head towards Fort Benning. As Shane said, if you were in such a post-apocalyptic world, how would you choose?